The silent killer in the United States is still high blood pressure. And we are very eager to have you understand as much as we can let you know about blood pressure and how to control it, because very few people who have hypertension in the United States know how to control the blood pressure, even with medications. I'm Agatha Thrash, a staff physician from UC Pines Institute, a medical missionary training institution. And we'd like to invite you to join us as we present this program on hypertension for you in the next half an hour. Join us, won't you?
The following program presents principles designed to promote good health and is not intended to take the place of personalized professional care. The opinions and ideas expressed are those of the speaker. Viewers are encouraged to draw their own conclusions about the information presented. Welcome to Help Yourself to Health with Dr. Agatha Thrash of UC Pines Institute. And now, here's your host, Dr. Thrash.
Certain segments of our population tend to have more hypertension than other segments. One segment is that familial group, like myself. In my family, we just expect that almost everybody is going to have high blood pressure at some time. Then there are the American blacks. They tend to be more likely to have high blood pressure than other segment groups. So those of us who have a problem with high blood pressure need to learn early in life how we can take care of that. So my husband and I wrote a book called Natural Treatments for Hypertension and published it a number of years ago, showing how various natural things can be used by people who have high blood pressure. And what we did was to try to get everything that was applicable to a home setting and put it in one book for the control of hypertension. So we think that people reading this could be greatly blessed by knowing about this aspect of what is available to treat high blood pressure. We also feel that every person and every family who has a problem with blood pressure should have their own blood pressure cuff and a stethoscope. And most of the time you can get this kind of equipment in a drugstore or a variety store or a department store like Walmart's. You can get these for under $25. You don't need the best quality of stethoscope. You can get a stethoscope for over $100, but a stethoscope that costs under $5 will usually do the job very well for you. What you need to watch out for is that this tube right here is sort of stiffened and is not flimsy, and that it doesn't make noise when this one that has two tubes like this needs to have some kind of stabilizing device such as this one has, so that they won't flop together like that and cause you to make an error or cause you to hurt your ears. Now, the way to put the stethoscope in the ears, you would think that this that if it points sort of toward you this way, that would be the way to put it in. But actually, you want the earpieces to point forward just a little bit. And so often it will come that way. If it does not come that way, then you should simply take your thumbs and push the earpieces forward just a bit so that they will fit better in the ears, because the ear canals go upward and backward, not forward as one might think. And so it makes it easier for the person to hear. Then also, don't put this in your ears before you get this part positioned under the edge of the cuff, because if you try to slip it under and this is in your ears, it will be like loud thunder right in your ear, and so you want to protect your ears in this way. Then, of course, you can get someone to teach you how to do the blood pressure reading, or most blood pressure cuffs come with some instructions that tell you how to do your own blood pressure. Now, you need to know what the readings mean. There are two aspects of the readings. One is the systolic, and I'd like to show you on the board just what these various things mean. Now, I have here 120/80, and these are the systolic and that's spelled S-Y-S-T-O-L-I-C, and the diastolic, which is here. Now, as you see these, you may wonder, what do these mean? Well, we recognize 120/80 as being the upper limit of ideal. Now, you may find that your blood pressure is different from that. But if it is higher, let's say yours is 140/80, you may worry just a little bit about this pressure, this higher pressure, because it's making a trend in a wrong direction. And while we would not yet call this hypertension, we might give you some caution that your blood pressure is going up, because doubtless it has not been that all of your life. When you were a child, it was doubtless, and maybe a teen, it was doubtless less than that. But now it's going up, and you can expect that little by little it will continue to go up, and the systolic will also go up, perhaps to 90. Now, some cardiologists would not even call this hypertension, 150/90, but we can say that it is above the ideal. And what the researchers have found is that at each level, as the systolic goes up 10 points, we find that there is a 15% increase in the number of strokes. So whatever it is at 120/80, at 130/80, the stroke rate will be about 15% greater. And at 140, the stroke rate will be about 15% greater than it is at 130. Now, admittedly, at these levels, we're not going to have much stroke at all, either way. But just to know that we want to keep the blood pressure as low as possible. Now, there is another thing for you to know, and this is a test that you can make yourself. This is called postural hypotension. That means your posture makes a difference in your blood pressure. Let us say that your blood pressure is, we'll just say 150/90. And that's what it is when you're sitting at a table. And then when you stand up, blood pressure cuff is still on your arm, stethoscope is still in place. When you stand up, give a few seconds and then take the blood pressure reading again. If it drops considerably, let's say it drops to 130/65, then we may say that you have postural hypotension. Postural hypotension is not a good sign in blood pressure readings, and so we want to be careful about watching that aspect as well. Postural hypotension can increase your risk of getting various kinds of blood pressure problems. Now, some people will look at their blood pressure, and let us say that theirs is about 90/40. And they think, oh, I have very low blood pressure. That must be why I don't feel good. No, that isn't why you don't feel good. There is some other cause. Most likely, it's a very rare person who runs a blood pressure of 90/40, or even less than that, even 80/20, who has symptoms from their blood pressure. If you are weak or you feel not good with a low blood pressure, it may be because you aren't drinking enough water, or because you don't sleep enough at night, or because you're tense and nervous, or you're high-strung, but it's not likely to be your blood pressure, not if it is a reading like this. Let me show you why. We depend on the difference between the systolic and the diastolic to help us to have a circulation. So the pressure that the heart puts on the blood and the relaxation of the vessels will determine how good the circulation is. So if you get a good squeeze on the heart, and the vessels will receive it very well and pump it back to the heart very well, you're going to have a good circulation. And a good circulation is what is required to make it so that you feel good. So let us define then what this difference is. It is called pulse pressure. Pulse pressure. Now, the pulse pressure determines your circulation. This pressure is what makes the blood pass from the heart through the arteries and veins and back to the heart again. And so if you have a very low blood pressure, don't feel that it is automatically a sign of your not having sufficient blood, sufficient circulation. Now, one of the important things that we find that a person has in the control of the blood pressure is that of the religious experience. And of course, the religious experience involves not only church going, but also individual Bible study and prayer and meditation and transferring your guilts and your stresses and your dissatisfactions or whatever you may have that might be a negative emotion, transferring these to the Lord, letting the Lord take care of those things that you cannot change. Do not bear those as your own stresses, but talk with the Lord about those and recognize that the Lord wants you to be happy. The Lord wants you to be healthy. And so if your schedule or your surroundings or the weather where you live or whatever it may be, your job, whatever it may be that is a part of your life, if you cannot control it, you cannot change it, then you may pray, and the Lord is merciful and good to make it so that we are able to have a reversal of those feelings of tension and stress. Now, another thing that we can do to make it so that we have better control of the blood pressure is that of weight control. In the weight control, there are only few rules that we need to have so that we can control the weight the best. And without any question, I tell you from much experience, my own experience as well as the experience of many patients, that you will feel more comfortable with your food if you're a total vegetarian and trying to lose weight. You will be able to eat enough so that you're comfortable and you still can lose weight. So let me recommend that you consider being a total vegetarian when you are trying to lose weight. That means to use fruits, vegetables, whole grains, nuts, and seeds. And that will be your diet. And the many delicious things that we can prepare from these very simple foods that God has provided for us. So that's one very simple rule. If you can't follow that one, then aim toward it as much as you can with the expectation that eventually you will try to get the full way. The second thing that I can tell you that will help you to be comfortable with your diet and still lose weight is that of free fats or visible fats. That would be margarine, mayonnaise, fried foods, cooking fats, salad oils, and in the beginning it would also be nut butters. That would be peanut butter, almond butter, sesame butter, and any of the nut butters that you might get. Nut butters have free fats in them which are handled a little differently in the body, not in the chemistry of it, but in its absorption and the way it's handled in the intestinal tract and in the liver. You can control your weight better if you do not have these free fats. Now, another thing that you will find will help you with diet is that of not having a great variety at one meal. A great variety would be maybe 2 or 3 main dishes and 3 or 4 fruits or vegetables or fruits and vegetables mixed at the same meal, 2 or 3 breads and 1 or 2 spreads. The more items you have in a meal, the greater the likelihood that you're going to overeat. Because you eat this thing and you think, well, I'm not satisfied with that, I'm not full with that, so I will eat some of this. And then you want seconds because you haven't had enough, so you take seconds, and it's seconds of this and seconds of this and seconds of this, and you've had much too much to eat. Whereas if you have, let us say, 2 or 3 items in the meal, maybe plus bread and spread, then you tire of that article of food before you have fully filled up, and you just have to say, I can't eat anymore. I'm going to have to push away from the table. So if you will learn that simple rule, it's not very difficult to do, that simple rule will help you. Then another very simple rule, nothing between meals and nothing after 4 in the afternoon. That means a 2-meal plan. Eat a good breakfast, eat a generous lunch, and no supper at all. Now, most people eat only 2 meals a day. Unfortunately, they eat the wrong 2 meals. They eat lunch, and they eat a humongous dinner. And we should have dinner in the middle of the day and not in the evening. Lunch should be represent probably about 40% of what we eat in a day. Breakfast should be maybe 50% of what we eat. And then if we eat anything at all in the evening, it should be no more than about 10% of our daily food intake. And so in this way, we can help ourselves very much with weight control, which is very important in the control of the blood pressure. Now, I'd like to talk with you also a bit about salt restriction. Salt restriction alone can help many people who are salt retainers to have a reduction in their blood pressure. Some studies show that probably about the ideal amount of intake of salt would be about 500 milligrams per day. That's in all that we eat. And that's not added salt. That would be sodium as it occurs, or salt, as it occurs in our foods. And many foods, especially many vegetables, are themselves high in salt. So we want to be very careful not to overdo with the salt. A rule of thumb that will help you to keep your salt intake below what we might consider to be the therapeutic level is, number one, no baked goods. Baked goods all have some salt added to them unless they're marked salt-free. Then no ready prepared foods, because all ready prepared foods also have salt added to them unless they are marked salt-free. Then no dairy products, because dairy products are naturally high in salt. And if dairy products are made up into some kind of prepared dish, they will also have salt added to that too, most likely. And so dairy products are a problem for the person. And then the rule, no salt added at the factory, no salt added at the stove, and no salt added at the table. And with these simple rules, you can enjoy the benefits of a diet below 500 milligrams of salt in the food that we eat in one day. Now, there are many other aspects of controlling the blood pressure, and Don Miller, my co-worker at Uchee Pines, is going to help you. And I see him bringing on a large pill. That's a very large blood pressure pill.
That's my favorite pill.
It's one of mine. If that will help my blood pressure, I want to know it.
Okay.
You tell us about it.
We'll talk about that. God has given us all of the medicines that we need in natural environment. But I want to just mention two things. Dr. Thrash has been talking to you about salt, and I want to give you a personal experience about salt. A number of years ago, I went to work for a number of Korean people in the northern part of Georgia. And every single person in this whole place was salt-free. The cooks cooked salt-free for everybody. And I was part of the everybody. And so every meal, I went down to salt-free rice, salt-free tofu, salt-free everything. And quite frankly, I had to admit it was insipid at first. It was really hard to take. After the 2-week period of time with these people eating a total salt-free diet, I mean, it was salt-free, not 1 grain of sodium in it anywhere, I loved the food. It was so good. Then I got into my car and drove back down to Alabama to my home, got there about lunchtime. I'd driven all morning. And being a bachelor, I went to a bachelor's favorite food, opened a can of beans, put them in my skillet, warmed them up, sat down, dumped them on a plate, took 1 bite, threw them all in the garbage. They were so salty, I could not stand them anymore. It is a learned habit. It's an acquired taste, and we can break the taste. No one needs that much salt, no one at all. Now, I want to give one other exercise. Dr. Thrash talked about low blood pressure. And in case the low blood pressure is being caused by a disease process and you just don't feel good with it, if you feel good and your blood pressure is low, let me give you an exercise for that. It's a very simple exercise. Basically, you take the palm of one hand and you place your elbow in your hand, and then you put your arm on your shoulder and you push like this, and you do this. That's a nice exercise for low blood pressure. Congratulate yourself that you've lived in such a way to get your blood pressure down low enough that your heart is saying, I love living here. I love working for this person. I'm going to work for a long, long time. There are ways that we can get our blood pressure down. One is by exercise. Getting out there, getting that heart working. See, working that heart out there in the exercise, in the fresh air, in the sunshine, lowers our blood cholesterol, lowers our blood pressure, strengthens our heart, not just strengthens the heart muscle, but strengthens the muscles in our arterial system. And so everything's stronger, blood pressure goes down. We can also lower the blood pressure by staying out of stressful situations. And many times we can't stay out of a stressful situation, so we have to learn how to control or manage the stress. If there's something that comes up that's very stressful, either quit the field is one term we can use, go outside, do some exercise because exercise neutralizes stress, turn to a different activity, and if you cannot change it, then resign it to the Lord and let the Lord handle your stress. That's the best way to take care of your stress. Sit there and say, I cannot control this situation right now, but I'm not going to let this situation control me either. Relax and let it go. It will pass. Believe me, this too shall pass. Other things we can do for our blood pressure, Dr. Thrash has talked about lowering our salt intake. There are certain foods that we can take into our diet. You've heard a lot about things like omega-3 fatty acids and L-arginine. L-arginine is a very nice food, and I want to just explain briefly about L-arginine. It's one of the base elements in the endothelial cells of our vascular system that produces a chemical called nitric oxide. The nitric oxide allows the vascular walls, the arterial walls, to relax. When they can relax, we have lower blood pressure. Trouble is, if our cholesterol is high into our system, it sort of fudges up that system, and the higher our cholesterol, the faster it destroys this nitric oxide. Well, it destroys the nitric oxide. Our endothelium cells produce more nitric oxide, using up more of the L-arginine. Pretty soon, it completely depletes the L-arginine. And what do you have left? You have no nitric oxide. The artery walls become rigid and they do not relax, and therefore we have a higher blood pressure. We need to eat foods that are high in L-arginine. And just very briefly, what are those foods? Fruits, vegetables, whole meats, nuts, and seeds. Fruits, vegetables, whole grains, nuts, and seeds. Eat God's foods and you will get enough L-arginine. We find that even with a high cholesterol, if we are eating foods high in L-arginine, we will find that our blood pressure goes down because it's still producing enough of the nitric oxide to relax the vascular walls. There are other very good foods, and some of my favorite, I've mentioned these particular pills, and I brought my favorite pill here today. This is one of my favorite pills. It's high in potassium. Potassium has a tendency to lower the blood pressure. There are many foods that are very high in potassium. I sort of made a list here. Matter of fact, they did a study in 1997. Basically, it wasn't a study, it was a review of all the literature on potassium. And as they looked at all the literature about the effects of potassium, they found that it has an effect on lowering the blood pressure. All right, some of the foods with potassium, besides my watermelon here, fruits, vegetables, and whole grains. Okay, great. In particular, things like apricots, avocados, bananas, blackstrap molasses. A good way to take blackstrap molasses, and it's also going to give you some good iron, is to take a spoonful, put it in some warm water, stir it up, and drink the water. You're going to be getting plenty of the potassium, plenty of the iron. Also, figs, dried fruits, nuts and potatoes, and another one of my favorite foods, which is garlic. Garlic is a good source of potassium, but it's also an extremely good medicine for your high blood pressure. You see, garlic has an antiplatelet stickiness factor, and that's what we want. We have higher blood pressure when all of a sudden or over a period of time, our blood cells start to aggregate or stick together, and our blood has to push harder. The heart's pushing harder to get this stuff through those small capillaries, and many times it can't get through the small capillaries and parts of tissue die. in the kidneys, in the eyes, in the all parts of the body. And so we need to be taking this garlic, which has the antiplatelet stickiness factor. One raw clove a day will give us all the antiplatelet stickiness factor that we need to keep our blood less viscid, keep it flowing through our bodies, and I believe there's something in here that keeps the mosquitoes away. So it's a good food, and I recommend it to your palates.
Very good. The garlic is also a good anti-mosquito food, and we want to let it be exuding from the skin. Now, there are some herbal remedies that I would like to show you that can help in the control of blood pressure. Coleus is one of those, Coleus forscolin. It's the very same little plant that grows in pots. Then hawthorn berry. Hawthorn is a relative of apples and has a number of phytochemicals in it, those chemicals that come from plants, that have a beneficial effect on the blood pressure. Ginkgo. Ginkgo is known for its benefits to the memory, but it is also excellent for the blood pressure. Corn silk and watermelon seed and buku. These are three diuretic herbs and are very helpful in the control of blood pressure. We also have some interesting other herbs, and I'd like to show you Arjuna bark. Arjuna bark is not one that we're very familiar with, but it is one that's very good. And the olive leaf and the mistletoe, those are also very good. Mistletoe will slow down the heart rate, and olive leaf has a number of other very good benefits besides on the blood pressure. Then I have one more graphic to show you, and these are more herbs for blood pressure: yarrow, black cumin seed, and of course garlic. The yarrow is a very common herb that we find growing everywhere, and the Lord put these good plant chemicals in the plants not just when modern peoples began to have high blood pressure, but the Lord put these phytochemicals in the plants from the very beginning. And I've often wondered whether He put them in the plants before Adam and Eve had their experiment into sin, or if God put them in the plants after Adam and Eve sinned. Whatever it is, we can know that our Heavenly Father has made provision, and that we need not feel that we are helpless against high blood pressure.